My name is Matt Abbott. Thanks for joining me on a Saturday night in my living room, which is bizarre, but such is life nowadays. Thanks to Keith for asking me to perform as part of this Things to Do festival. I believe Keith is going to be sharing this with his channel, and so people might be jumping on who've got no idea who I am. My name is Matt Abbott. I'm a poet from Wakefield. I also front a band called Skint and Demoralised, which is how Keith knows who I am. I'm currently filming on 2 cameras, so by trying to look at both, I'll look at neither and I'll look really buzz-eyed, but all that matters is the poetry. So this first poem I'm going to read is actually a lyric to a Skint and Demoralised song from the latest album called The 15th Floor. A pastel-coloured tower block, the nasty edge of town, interrupts the sunrise with a 15-storey frown. The paint jobs look like piss stains, the grass is pasty brown. The council dropped a bollock, but they'll never pull it down. Franco is a failure by the age of 23. He used to be a rock star, now he works in HMV. To Kimberly is a pity shag with little else to choose. A recovering alcoholic, she works in bargain booze. They step inside the elevator. The sellotape. See, I've forgotten a line there really early on in the broadcast, and that's fine. Get it out of the way, and then you won't do it again. They sellotape a broken sign to the elevator door. Step inside and fornicate as it moves between the floors. For Franco, it's a mission. Sex is now a sport. For Kimberly, it's all about the risk of being caught. They silently pretend that they get any pleasure from it, and then they roll a spliff to make the other person vomit. Netflix as a sedative till eyelids win the duel, a tumbleweed existence as boring as it's cruel. No one said the 20s would be destitute and bleak, formulating saving plans to see 'em through the week. With the paper in the Rizzler pack that says you're nearly done, Kimberly made a collage that said, I haven't yet begun. The strip lights are flickering, the toddlers wear designers, graffiti on the wall that says, victory to the miners, destruction to procrastinate, convenience is queen, unhinged, uninhibited, unheard, and unseen. Cool. See, if I make the first mistake, then I won't make any others, because that helps me to relax. I'm already about 10% more relaxed, I would say. And I know that some of you are leaving lovely. Oh, love a new ad. Cool, that's good. Thanks. Got to put food on table somehow, haven't I? Hello, Vicky Norman. How are you doing? Right. This poem is called Cockles and Coal. There are a couple of football references in there, but don't roll your eyes and abandon it straight away. It's not really about football. It just sort of is. Okay. They knew Stratford long before the architects, when shopping malls swamped suburbs and skies were scraped by the city. Pie and mash with sawdust floors and lager tops in Moros, a history only visible now to those who quietly lived it. But from Watneys to Westfield, there's one remaining constant. Identity, allegiance and belonging to a dream. Cheering on the irons from the bowling terrace, where substitutes could smell your breath and mortals took it away. See, I only knew it as Upton Park, I only saw it in pixels, and I've only ever known Stratford as it is. This gentrified metropolis sprouting through the cracks, but the tail end of the good old days enraptured me in the 90s. No running tracks for Julian Dicks or £1,000,000 contracts. I'm wearing my 72 replica. It's the first game of the season and we're playing away at Bristol and the game's live on Sky. I check with my fiancée because I'm worried that it's risky, but she's known this lot for years now and she smiles and says, it looks nice. This crisp white shirt beneath a claret and blue flag, in a pub where Billy Bonds beats Billy Bremner. I'm a paranoid imposter, I scratch my chest at the bar, I drown in my surroundings as they clock me from afar. Nowadays, in their seats, they clock suits guzzling popcorn, force-fed this rented Olympic dream. For family-run clubs see entertainment franchise, and the boys of 86 are a distant, faded bubble. Bobby Moore was the landlord here, Arnautovic never came, and in some ways we're Cockles and Coal, in others one and the same. So no, they don't give a shit about my shirt. The first thing they do is ask me if the scorer was Sniffer Clark. They reminisce about Revy's team and then take the piss about Derby, and through Pablo, Bamford, Harrison, I gradually relax. In the wrong pub, on the wrong day, this descends into hell. They say, anyone gives you stick, lad, they'll have us to deal with as well. 'Twas a good day and they're a great bunch of people. Okay, this is from my collection, Two Little Ducks. It's a poem called Hatchbacks and Lullabies. In the car park, by the quayside, as dark as it's gonna get, hatchbacks are gathered like the closing frames of snooker. Girls giggle in harmony with the odd nocturnal seagull, and headlamps are a form of winking from a distance. Hotbox or handjobs or simply passing time, the juvenile adrenaline that comes with petty crime, too young or too broke to try and chance it in the bars, so Friday's misdemeanours come in neon-coloured cars. This is where Maria met Steve. She was 17, he was 23, a Kermit-coloured Clio on a double date with Kirsty. It's funny how, the more you drink, the more it makes you thirsty. 5 years and a fortnight since he drove her back to his. He promised her something special, but she's yet to discover what it is. So, she plans to just let her hair grow for a bit. Use a £20 note as a bookmark in a Sylvian plath. Let Stephen paint her toenails as he watches Match of the Day and then stretch out in a Pikachu onesie. He makes the greatest brew on earth, that boy, 2 sugars and the shade of orangutan whiskers. They have to swim the channel just to try and pay the rent. A fortnight with a microscope on every penny spent before they plummet with the pressure and it's plundered by a drug. A spliff instead of breakfast or red wine from a mug. But with phones stuck in flight mode and the doors double locked, there's nothing in the world beats the comfort of this bubble. And as Netflix baby sits for bits that drag and drift between the shifts, her eyes evade the calendar and all she's ever dreamt of. Because it's easier to compromise than pursue. It's easier to accept than to challenge. It's easier to recalibrate than to truly stick to your guns. The last time she checked, there was no parachute button on the Virgin TiVo remote. So, she's just gonna let her hair grow for a bit and fall asleep with Sylvia singing lullabies from the page. Some of you will have noticed that the character in that poem is called Maria. I started writing about that character 11 years ago. I am now engaged to a woman called Maria, and it is complete and utter coincidence, and most people don't know that and just think I'm weird. So in 2016, either side of the EU referendum, I was volunteering at the Calais jungle, and there were a couple of things that I expected before I went to the Calais jungle, and everything that I expected wasn't there, and everything that I saw I never could have imagined in a million years, and I've written a lot about it in my Two Little Ducks collection, and I'm going to read one of the poems about it now. It's called 22 Miles, but I'm just going to have a sip of my beer.
Do the button on your shirt up. You've got a button.
And apparently a button's come undone on my shirt. Saturday night striptease after the poetry. I can't do it. You ever tried to do a button up one-handed? It's impossible. Right, here we are, 22 miles. Just 22 miles. That's all it is. The sunlight bounces off the cliffs, and because they're taller, they look closer from France. I listen to the waves lapping over breakfast. I'd have a croissant and a coffee, but I feel sick. I'm sure if you've traversed through continents and oceans, you're going to look across and think, I could swim that. The seagulls float gracefully in ravenous packs, and my head's a fucking shed from all the parallels and chasms. David Williams, 10 hours 34, Sport Relief. Eurostar, 1 hour, 29 quid. P&O Ferry, 90 minutes, 40 quid. Channel Tunnel, 35 minutes, 49 quid. A smuggler's dinghy, through the dead of night, up to 13,500. Yesterday afternoon, I was sat playing cards with Ethiopians and Eritreans. The breeze picked up, so they invited me inside, into the home. And no word of a lie, right? No word of a lie, there was a Bradford City sleeping bag. For those of you doing an internal shrug, there are 22 miles between my house and their stadium. It's the same between Leeds and York, between Newcastle and Hartlepool, Manchester and Blackburn, Birmingham and Leamington Spa, Northampton and Milton Keynes, Oxford and Reading, Bristol and Newport, Exeter and Torquay, Southend and Romford, Portsmouth and Bognor Regis, Calais and Dover. They ask me with wide eyes if Bradford are a decent team. I haven't got the heart to tell the truth. I want to ask them all how they got here, how long it took and how they managed, but that kind of thing is either volunteered or locked away. They offer me a cigarette and I smoke it just to socialise. I give them some euros to buy some beers and I'm Father Christmas. There are people who walked across deserts, whose drivers were shot in the chest, whose dinghies were sinking and floated ashore, whose bodies were subjected to unspeakable acts. They burp with the beer and cheer with the cards. For a while it feels normal. The universal language of betting and banter, brotherhood forged in the belly of the beast, flags and our playful affiliation. The lad sat beside me, taps me on my knee, so I lean in and lend him my ear. He asks me, very softly, if I can justify why my country is leaving them here. His question somehow silences the room. Playing cards stripped suddenly of worth. He's not asking me as a journalist or a lawyer, just a fellow human being on this earth. I feel sick again, with shards of sunlight piercing through the roof. They ask me if they're likely to be welcomed in by law, and I haven't got the heart to tell the truth. So I've been writing a lot about my reckless youth recently, including some of my experiences growing up as a Leeds fan. This is another one that has football references in it, but I promise you it's not actually a poem about football. Just bear with me for 2 minutes. It's called Paperboy Hooligan. It's the first time they've played us in 5 long years, and the Owls are out for a scalp. They beat us 1-0 and now we're trudging subdued. Street lamps in saffron from stadium to station. There are 3 of us and the traffic's dead, so it's tram tracks over pavement. To our left the park's a charcoal void, to our right shops are snoozing. Middlewood Road in Sheffield, a gaping artery between Hillsborough and town. It'll take us an hour, shoulders slumped, feet dragging, belly laughs from pre-match reduced to stony silence. You try to rationalise and then forget. Swallow your pride through rage to indifference and don't bother chatting tactics, just get home as fast as you can afford to. A voice from behind with a familiar Yorkshire ring. Hey up lads, you heading back to Leeds? A tactician might have delayed, but it's a yes or no answer, and an evening on cheap lager hardly sharpens the mind. Bobby answers in a blink. Yeah mate. Another blink later, a fist cracks his skull. 4 more men bombard us, blood spatters concrete, and I'm face down in a cat's eye before I've had the chance to flinch. Dirty Leeds bastards, they spit out, gleeful, Adidas Samba, straight to the ribs before they scarper. We get serviettes from a takeaway, blood replacing ketchup, and as we ponder a second defeat, we club together for a taxi. Bobby breaks his trance with apologies. John masks his embarrassment with fury, and me, I do everything to stop a top lip quivering. Prize jacket with lining torn and damaged zip. Ribs screaming in agony, no words to soften the mood. I find my dad outside the station beneath a cloud of smoke. I count my blessings that we were separated outside the stadium. He nods, crushes his fag end on the floor and heads inside. Silent and sheepish, I follow over the footbridge. I keep completely stum until we're standing on the platform. Hundreds of other Leeds fans form a blanket. Bobby pats me on the shoulder before joining John in the off-licence. Dad doesn't ask, but I dare say he's presumed. It was over before it started. The simplest of attacks. Put firmly in my place, I just glare at the tracks. Okay, so this next one I'm going to do is a tribute to somebody who had a huge impact on my life. It was a woman called Tracy. I met her when I was a kid, and she was by my side through the skint and demoralised madness, and it was 8 years ago yesterday when she passed away. So this is a poem that I wrote in tribute to her called 65 Roses. A stay of execution since childhood. When we met, she was 40 plus a few. A mindset governed by mortality, a kaleidoscope filter cast upon the view. Mondays in Chelsea, cakes and carbonara, gliding down the King's Road, tutu and tiara. Tuesdays in Sheffield, an afternoon spent feline, hours watching butterflies, the daily worries flutter by. I was a boy, she was beyond. Anyone who'd offered me a bond, she was the Shankly to my cop. When she offered me her wisdom, I could have drowned in a drop. Wednesday in the studio, belting out with borrowed lungs, harmonies from Motown, within weeks for on Radio 1. Thursday in the hospital, a clipboard diagnosis. She'd ring us, unfazed, with 2 fingers raised. Finally, on Friday, fish and chips at Whitley Bay, tomato ketchup on a cheek, another wave, another week. I was a boy, and then I grew. She nurtured me with everything she knew. Sleeping on the sofa when the stairs were too much, but when I came home limping, she was my crutch. Tracy, this oracle, this bastion of strength, if there were 9 winning scratch cards, she'd buy the 10th. We're here for a good time, not a long time, she sang until the end, when I realised time is the biggest fortune that we spend. 4 a.m. phone calls, G&Ts for breakfast. She'd call me a silly fucker, then hold my head against a necklace. Drinking like my granddad at 20 years old. It went from tongues in arseholes to shoulders turning cold. A world of woes engulfed me, landing with a thud. Beside my narcissistic bubble, Tracy's coughing blood. It seems you only see the pinnacle with hindsight as a gift, and only gain perspective when you fully cut adrift. Robbie Williams medleys, rainbow tights and glitter, cock jokes and box sets devoured in a day. 65 roses, 47 years. Wherever I go, it was Tracy who sent me on my way. And I called that poem 65 Roses because when she was a kid, her younger sister couldn't pronounce cystic fibrosis, so she called it 65 Roses instead. Right, let's see what time we're on. Oh, I'm doing all right for time, actually. Is it really? Only 22? Is my watch slow or what? Right. Okay. Doing a poem now called... I'm just checking the other one. Yeah, it is. Right, I've got 15 minutes left. I'm doing well. I'm doing all right. This is a poem called Red, White and Blue. And I've even got a theatrical prop. If anybody tunes into the live broadcast now, they might get the very wrong idea that they've joined some kind of Britain First rally. But I can assure you this is just a poem about the flag and all the things it means. And it absolutely fascinates me that this flag can mean 1,000 different things to one person, depending on where they see it, or 1,000 things to 1,000 people, depending on who they are. So this poem, rather imaginatively, is titled Red, White and Blue. The Britpop snarl. Jerry's dress. Cool Britannia. Girl power. Shaking hands with Tony Blair, the 90s finest hour. Nick Griffin's BNP from the ashes of the National Front. The Falklands Wars, up yours, Delors, the Boxing Day hunt. Contextual chameleon, so keen to misconstrue. Polarised reactions to red, white and blue. Winston Churchill, Austin Powers, Michael Caine, bouncing bombs. Rangers fans at Ibrox, the last night of the proms. Flags beside the railway line, Britannia Bar in Magaluf. Northern Ireland's marching season, soldiers sleeping rough. This flag is liberal guilt and pride and honour too. An ever-crumbling union, red, white and blue. It flaps and drapes, emboldens, adorns, comforts, confronts, welcomes and warns, verifies, intimidates, emblazons, provokes. For some, it's nostalgia, for others, it chokes. Mods or monarchy, taint or teach, Buckingham Palace or Benidorm Beach, roadside burgers, readers' wives, Enid Blyton's famous five, tourism, paraphernalia, Boris Johnson's bumbling failure, car stickers, calf tattoos, coffins on the evening news. A reg plate on a lorry bound for Dover. An orphan's eyes fixated at a tunnel by the port. A victory lap for Team GB that Sunday night in Stratford. Families nationwide enraptured by a sport. From Only Fools and Horses, Corrie and Mr. Bean, to the savage, brutal empire and all that came between. The Great British Bake Off, the crumbs of Enoch Powell, squinting for a lounger in matching shorts and towel. A pin badge on a polo shirt with braces and a Harrington on a skinhead in a flat-roofed pub. A girl dressed in gingham with a little plastic flag, the Jubilee in sepia in the local Liberal club. If it's an emoji in your Twitter name, we probably disagree. Bigots blurring boundaries. Should hate speech be free? I feel bad for saying I'm ashamed of it. I feel bad for saying I'm proud. Arms aloft chanting with my back towards the crowd. This flag is a threat. This flag caught suspicion. This flag is childhood or chasing pole position. This flag is my privilege. This flag is my oppressor. This flag is law and order. This flag is an aggressor. Yeah, this flag is kicking off and this flag is clinging on. This flag is a pensioner that owns every swan. This flag is liberal guilt and pride and honour too. An ever-crumbling union, red, white and blue. Royal weddings, fish and chips, Monty Python, Nelson ships, swinging 60s Mersey beat, Dr. Martin's Carnaby Street, Who, Jam, Pistol, Stones, Maiden, Oasis, Blur, Henman Hill, the telephone, shaken, not stirred. Fry-ups in 40-degree sunshine. The Cockney rhyming slang. Blackpool Illuminations. In 1966 it was a symbol of the times. Now it's mainly racist connotations. Oppressive rule of Ireland for 800 years. The invention of concentration camps. Guns versus spears. Rape, pillage, rule, ruin, educate, transform. Liberate from fascism. Call migrants a swarm. The butcher's apron, the lonely yomper. Unification, divide and conquer. This flag is liberal guilt and pride and honour too. an ever-crumbling union, red, white and blue. Okay, I'm going to do another Skint and Demoralised lyric now. And just to say, if you are interested, I've got signed copies of Two Little Ducks on my website, and my kids' book. None of this is for kids, don't worry. My kids' book, A Hurricane in My Head, on my website, and the Skint and Demoralised latest album, We Are Humans, which is, hold up a sec, not just on vinyl, but on white vinyl. That's not the light that's too bright, it's white vinyl. And then finally, Maria Ferguson, my fiancée, has just published her debut collection, Alright Girl, which is also available from her website. So if you want to support us, that's how you can do it. Right, this is a lyric from the latest Skint and Demoralised album. It's called Superheroes, and I hope I can remember it. I'm sure I will. The way he looks at me, I feel like a hologram. This boy barely double figures. We're meters from men dressed in helmets and shields, fingers inches from triggers. His knockoff Barcelona shirt is all that's left from home. The bulldog in the ballot box is taking back control. These orphans, left inhuman, are aching for a chance. The ringing in his ears might be tinnitus or trauma. His trainers are size too small, clutching paperwork to exercise his legal right to Britain, whose government responded by building bigger walls. He travelled with his dad, but his dad's no longer with us. Sweating at the break of dawn in the sunlight, he shivers. His mother and his sister never made it out of Syria so sinister he could no longer return. Nearly 1,000 children in this nightmare called home, and 78% of them are living here alone. We're standing in the school. Marco is the teacher. He's got a sofa now in Newcastle, but he's still a weekly feature. He said, "Draw your favourite superheroes with pencils and a pad." This boy sat in silence and drew a picture of his dad. I wish I could say that wasn't a true story, but it was. Right, I've got slightly longer than I thought I was going to have, which is very, very rare for me. It's usually completely the other way around. So, I'm going to read... a poem that is a dedication to our NHS workers. Not in the autumn before the EU referendum, my mum and I went through this experience that I'm going to tell you about, and it sort of brought home, we all sometimes I think are a little bit guilty of taking the NHS for granted until we actually have to, rely on it to survive basically sometimes. So this is a story I'm going to tell, which is a dedication to everything that's going on at the moment. The rain beats down on the windows of the car. When you're lost or you're late, it sounds like chaos, but when you're just fine and you're warm and you're comfy, it feels like someone's massaging your scalp with the tips of their nails or the tips of their fingers. Thursday the 3rd of September. You called by following a routine checkup at the hospital shortly after 2 p.m. I was upstairs. Lucy answered the door. Silence. "Are you all right?" she asked. Silence. "Matt, you'd better come down," she said, retreating to the kitchen to the kettle. And you looked straight at my chest with those Irish eyes and said, "I've got cancer." The world slowly imploded as I took you in my arms and we waited for the click. We sat and talked, passing the diagnosis around the room like a wailing baby, trying to make sense of it and searching for calm. Tuesday the 13th of October. I called by following major surgery at the hospital shortly after 2 p.m. They call them gates instead of wards, and it does look a bit like an airport, but at least we had the heart to avoid a departure lounge. You moved as though you were standing underwater, spoke with the croak of a young Alex Turner, and as you shuffled towards me, barefoot in a nightgown, I've never seen anyone looking quite that strong. "Are you all right, Mum?" And you looked straight at my chest with those Irish eyes and said, "I'll be fine." Thursday the 10th of December, I called by following a Christmas gig shortly after 10 p.m. We'd to dash via Agbrig, I'd forgotten my passport, and then over the M62 to the P&O port at Liverpool. With my phone drained of battery, the sat-nav took us to the wrong end of the right port in complete darkness at 2 a.m. We tried asking a bloke by a lorry, but he was a urinating unilingual Latvian. A frantic drive around Bootle, rescued by the woman in the all-night garage. Terror, and then tears, and then panic, and then relief. The rain beats down on the windows of the car. When you're lost or you're late, it sounds like chaos, but when you're just fine and you're warm and you're comfy, it feels like someone's massaging your scalp with the tips of their nails or the tips of their fingers. One by one, the cars filter up the ramp. The rain gives way to echoes of engine noise, waved on by conductors in high-vis jackets. They feed us fish and chips before bidding us good night. At lights out, I sip on an IPA and try reading Bukowski by the light from the fridge, but at this stage, it just makes me feel tired and inferior. Instead, I sit watching you, drifting off to sleep. Your purple coat for a duvet, a pillow from reception, peaceful as ever. When we wake, we'll be in Dublin, where Irish eyes are smiling. God bless the NHS. Yeah, I was going to read that poem last because it's a really nice note to finish it on, but I saw it there on my set list that I've done in a pink post-it note, and I just felt the urge to do it then. So I've probably only got one poem left that I'm going to do to you tonight, and I'm just trying to think of I'll tell you what I'll do. I know. Yeah. So obviously we're all either self-isolating or social distancing, which is very, very difficult. And we'd all probably rather be at the pub right now or in the theatre or doing whatever it is that you'd normally do on a Saturday night, but we're not. We're sat at home. And one of the things that I am very, very much looking forward to do when we return back to normal is to go to my favourite pub, which at the moment is the Victoria in Walthamstow with Maria, and go to Neil's Karaoke on a Friday night, because I know that in 20 or 30 years' time I am destined to be a weirdo that just goes to karaoke all the time. There's nothing wrong with you if you go to karaoke all the time, it's just I'll be a weirdo. So this poem is called Old Lungs, Young Lovers. It's only a short one. In flat-roofed pubs on the corners of estates, he clutches his carrier with pride. They have the lyrics on the screen, but this man is analogue, typed up, stacked neatly, and then dispatched into plastic. He winces as he watches young romantics, cavorting and dancing at angles, nursing half a Theakston's until the karaoke resumes his Sunstar spotlight. His voice is gravelly nowadays with a croak as he pushes his range, but 20 years previous this guy was a different class. Eyes scrunched, he serenades the lovers that escaped as the young romantics fumble through the food of distant dreams, dumb to what they're missing and how precious these moments are. His 3 minutes flash and he picks up his bag and he shuffles to his stool at the bar. Glenn Campbell, Johnny Walker, Tom Jones, and then bed. Old lungs, young lovers, every Friday from 8. Okay, I love characters like that, and I love situations like that, and I love the strange little social customs. Yeah. So, I'm going to finish with this poem, which is... I don't know if... Well, for anybody like me who is a member of the Labour Party, it's a very difficult and strange and confusing time right now, and obviously it feels a long, long time since we were optimistically not knocking on doors in December and trying to influence the decision of the British public, which obviously, if you are a Labour voter, didn't particularly go our way. But I think it's important. I know a lot of people don't like Keir Starmer and are leaving the party or have already left the party. I'm staying in the party and I'm fighting for what I believe in. The Labour Party's been there for us for 130 years. And every single key worker out there, the Labour Party was invented to defend them. Trade unions were invented to defend them. So, I think it's really, really important now more than ever that we stick with the Labour Party. And this is a bit of this is a poem that I wrote a couple of years ago inspired by Jeremy Corbyn, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's really, really important, and this will finish my set. Don't let them tell you the NHS is destined to be privatised, dump you in a global recession and force you to acclimatise. Moralistic platitudes when Parliament's alive with lies told Murdoch'll be laughing on the day democracy dies. From benefit cuts to the bedroom tax, we return to no Irish, dogs or blacks. Immigration Street, yeah, let's kick 'em out and boot 'em hard. What about tax evasion terrace, bankers bonus boulevard? I'm sick to death of bankers for bosses, billionaires inflicting losses on working folk who are skint and demoralised year after year of being politically colonised. Don't let the Tories inflict any more. They might have won the battle, but will win the war. Over the next 4 years, the art of protest must be mastered. If we all stick together, we can drown the set of bastards. Cheers. So yeah, I've been Matt Abbott. As I've said, I've got Two Little Ducks online, which is a tenner. A Hurricane in My Head online, which is for 10 to 14-year-olds and doesn't contain anything I've done tonight. That's $6.99. And then the Skint and Demoralised White album, I think, is 15 quid. And Maria's is a tenner. So there's me doing a shameless plug for my merchandise. Thank you very, very much for watching. Tune in to the rest of Keith's festival. If you go to Keith Goldhanger's page, I know he's sharing the streams from all the bands. He's going on all night. I'll try and read your comments afterwards. Hopefully it'll save them. Thank you very much. And yeah, have a great night. Cheers.